This show was bookended by beauty. And what are the odds that at some point today, I'm going to kick through this table and this microphone's going flying?
Hey, I want to welcome you to Relevant Rants. Scott, are we going to rant today or what?
I can't wait. This is going to be a ranting day all the way through. We're going to lead people into ranting today.
I love it. So, hey, we're here today, MLH Productions, and I'm sitting here with my future son-in-law, Danny Jimenez. Jaime. But
Whatever. I get confused at times. It's all good.
He's not allowed. He's the son-in-law. He's not allowed to disagree.
Yeah, he's going to be my son-in-law. Love this man. He's going to be graduating next week as a mechanical engineer from Fresno State University.
Congratulations.
So excited about that. We are going to leverage that mechanical engineering degree. We got here with Kyle Lawson, a real estate mogul here in Bakersfield. And Kyle and I always have this discussion about how he wants to be number one, and he could do it.
Well, if you know me, I don't stop ranting, so this is just normal.
Yeah.
And my life's a rant.
My friend Scott Winkler down there on the end, which I think is an appropriate place. Because
Absolutely.
he will be objecting a lot because he's a local defense attorney.
This show was bookended by beauty. And what are the odds that at some point today, I'm going to kick through this table and this microphone's going flying? We'll work through it.
We will. Hey, I was just talking to you guys last night, and guess what? I found a joke about a lawyer, real estate guy, and an engineer. So these guys walk in. So you've got an attorney, an engineer, and real estate guy walk into a bar with a priest. And they walk into this bar, and Scott doesn't believe I have this joke, but they walk into this bar, and this priest start looking around, and he start telling people, he goes, how many people in this room want to go to heaven? Immediately the engineer, the attorney, and the real estate guy step up, and there's a guy over there drunk in the corner. He doesn't step up. The priest goes, sir, so you don't want to go to heaven when you die? And he goes, when I die, yeah, I thought you were taking a load up right now.
Wow. Did that not break the ice? Was that not good?
I didn't think it was funny.
No, you're good. I was,
and I think more importantly, this was a Tom joke. You made this up on your own. That was impressive.
Well, we're glad you're here today. Hey, we're going to be talking about some subjects, and I'm going to be talking about schools of choice. It's a big topic nowadays. People want a choice where to send their kids to school, and they're not sure. Public, private, has been something going on for a long time.
Okay. And is Danny going to lead us off today with talking about the baby formula crisis that's circling America?
Man, I believe I am. All right, so let's get started. So, as everybody knows, we are in a deep baby shortage formula crisis right now. And I just want to start off and say, like, how did we get here? How is it that we're at this point where we go to the store and there's no baby formula on the shelves? It's completely empty.
It started with the toilet paper.
Right? And I think that's my point, is it started as a crisis all throughout from raw materials, right? I mean, whether it was gas, whether it was microchips, we've seen it all across the board, right? And yeah, if we don't have gas, we can't get to work, and the quality of life kind of goes down. But without baby formula, lives can potentially be lost.
Well, that's when it gets risky. Because I'm a dad, and I'm going to tell you, my daughter required special formula.
So did my daughter.
And I would literally, there's not a lot of things that would keep me from formula when it comes to my kids.
And it seems like that's the main issue. The main issue, if you look at this, is it's serious. There's kids' lives that are clearly in trouble, but because of the climate we're in today, it's become a political issue. Because what we're being told is it's either viral or bacterial or it's a trade issue. It's one of those three that are clogging this up. So we've had one side of the politics saying this is what's going on, the other side saying this, and the underlying matter is exactly what Kyle just highlighted. There is literally, I think in 3 or 4 states, they're 40% down in inventory.
There's two sources for this. You're either going conventional with breast milk,
yes,
or you're going to go to formula. Now, Danny, who's marrying my youngest daughter, she went completely conventional. My oldest daughter, Taylor, she went straight to that Similac, which is produced by the company, which has not been able to produce,
right?
Based on what you just said.
Right, they're handcuffed at this point, supposedly. It's a deep issue, and I just think it highlights exactly where we're at, because I do think it's a a human issue with respect to those that have babies or those who have grandbabies, and it's being made out something totally different by how it's being announced.
And future, like you guys aren't there yet, but you're gonna have kids. Does that shake you as far, like,
Good
I know
question.
during the world of COVID, I didn't want to have another kid. One of the reasons I was like, I don't want to deal with the mess
Right.
of the world. For a young family that's starting out, maybe getting ready to have a kid, does that affect you wanting to have a kid? It's like, do I really want to deal with this crap?
Yeah.
I don't know if it affects it because, life is miraculous and it's of
Sure.
the Lord. But it certainly raises concerns because no matter how you put it, no matter what end of the spectrum you're on, there is some reliance on the government to help provide for your family. And I mean, it's simply if they're just not making formula or it's not coming out as quick and, they want to shipping them off to the border. I mean, what can you do about that?
Well, I think what's interesting is a young kid too is sometimes we go into this place of having babies where we think we're going to breastfeed. Our wives want to breastfeed. And many times that's just not the case for whatever
We
reason.
didn't have a choice. Our daughter had to call it.
I didn't. I had 3 boys, and it kind of alternated who had a choice. Maybe the mom needs to get back to work. Maybe there was some ailment that came out after she had the baby. So I think so many times kids your age that are getting married that are thinking about this, it's difficult to understand the full grasp of how important baby formula really is.
Well, I remember when I was a baby, my mom told me back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, But I had formula way back then. We're
Right.
talking 1958.
Absolutely.
And I don't care if anybody knows how old I am, but I mean, 1958, I had formula.
Right.
So it's something that isn't just here, and all of a sudden, hey, it's a surprise.
Oh no, it'll get you. And I'm sorry, did you say 1958?
1958.
I didn't want to
started
highlight
doing
that.
math,
I
and
started
I'm
doing
That
math, I
automatically
said-
just catch you?
It did, because I'm like, I'm not the oldest one here.
I think the
you are
dinosaurs-
by a mile.
I don't know how that got in there, but Danny, go on. I mean, so as you're thinking about this, what's your conclusion to this?
I think my conclusion is that there needs to be, FDA and the USDA need to be held accountable for everything. This isn't something that just happened abruptly. There was signs dating back to 2019 where they just kind of ignored, microbacterial kind of, I guess, concerns, right, that were flagged and kind of gave them a little slap on the wrist and didn't follow up. And then it kind of happened with kind of a bigger scare later in 2021, right? And we kind of see this drift off, and they finally shut it down in February, right?
Which didn't help because now we don't have any.
And now we don't have any, right?
Well, it's interesting
So
that you
can they hold them accountable, Scott? You're a lawyer.
Well, can I tell you what I thought was interesting? It wasn't just accountability. You're talking about the government has to come in. They have to intervene to a certain extent. And I think that kind of rolls right into your topic, Tom. I mean, you're back in there talking about freedom of choice of schools, which goes back, I think, to a certain extent of how the government's going to be an umbrella heading over that. Are they going to be able to provide assistance? Are they going to not provide assistance? Or what their role will be in your issue?
Well, there again, part of my career, and I've been collecting careers, as Danny knows, through my life, but I was an administrator for a private school, and I saw them through accreditation, both an elementary and a private school. So I oversaw a private school for 19 years. My wife was the administrator in the elementary school and worked as a counselor in the high school. So I've had this experience in private school. My wife's a superintendent now. And people want a choice, and I'm here to tell you, you have a choice. People are making choices about education all the time. Mm-hmm. There again, Danny and I think Kyle, Danny attended private school. My girls attended private school till high school, and then they were given a choice to whether they wanted to attend private school or going into the public school. They chose private school. So the choice for my wife and I was to make it happen.
Right.
And I think there is a choice, but there also, when you make choices, you have to have resources. So we had to forego some things. My wife and I chose to eat top ramen one day a week, because it worked into our school of choice. My kids were at Bakersfield Christian High School together for 1 year, and man, we saw God's provision come through for us. But I will tell you, whatever school you choose, because it is your choice. Now, if you're wanting the government to pay for it, I doubt that's ever going to happen, because it's just built into the system. But you have a choice, and when you make that choice, you got to make it for your family. But I'm here to tell you that making a school of choice doesn't relinquish you from your responsibility. The Bible says that we will train up a child in the way they should go, and when they get older, they won't depart of it. And I think, Scott, you're seeing that right now in your family.
Absolutely.
I think Danny's seeing it. I think Kyle's seeing it. So if you're choosing a school, you got to make that choice for yourself. You know, I've seen my wife with her school make it one of the best because she brought in an idea to help bring up kids' education, or if they're failing in an area, bring them up. And she's using that. Now, she's in the public school. She's seeing it happen within her school because the intervention specialist she used is actually the teacher of the year. We're running a lunch break special on them for the district, Kern County, now going for the state of California.
But don't you think because you used the word choice?
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt you because
you did.
With all the parents out there, well, again, it was a relevant rant, and we've given you plenty of minutes to rant on this, so it's our turn. I think what's interesting is choice is defined so different from parents. There are some people that are going to find educational choice by academics, some by a religious background, right, or an ideology. Or in some cases, it's athletic. Some kids are saying, I'm going to send them to this school, regardless of private or public, because this is the best opportunity to get a scholarship here. And I think that's the more important point. First of all, you have to kind of define what you want out of your child or what you want him to grow. Mm-hmm. It would be great to do athletics, but I'm telling you now that I have kids that are all in their late 20s, listen, life gets to us all. My wife and I, we went through several consequences to send our kids through private school. They went from Stockdale Christian to Heritage and then to Garces. It was not cheap. For 4 years, we have 5 kids in high school at the same time, and we had 2 at BCHS, and we had 3 at Stockdale Christian. And being an attorney didn't keep me from being poor. I tell you what, having 5 kids, that was difficult.
But it was the best decision
looking back,
for my
it was.
family.
Other people, and I will never mark it against them, will look and say, well, my kids went to a public school here and there, and they've done very. It's not about very well. Kids go through issues. And my particular, from my perspective, I'm glad my kids got what they want because as they've gone through life problems, they've learned a lot in school to fall back on.
And without picking on kids that aren't fortunate enough or have the parents that will get them into private, you can tell, like now that my girls are both in private, you can tell if there's like a group full of kids, you can tell which ones are better behaved. We've been to in school activities, in sports programs, and coaches have mentioned that, like, we know which kids are usually in private because they are made to listen.
Right.
You don't have to tell them twice. So
that's almost a debate in itself.
But I could even say you could go to some private school, and Danny can jump in on this one.
Absolutely.
They're not they don't have halos on their heads.
No.
They get bad kids in private school. Let's just say that.
There's always the few.
Well,
that's a good
Danny
point,
can
though.
tell you how'd you get in high school.
Man,
You got kicked out, right?
yeah.
I'm gonna step in and just say don't answer because I can tell by the look on your face you don't want to answer that.
Yeah.
So my kids are in private, but this is coming from a guy who got expelled or forcefully put out of school. So, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
So, Danny, what's your opinion about this?
Oh man, it's
You met
tough.
your wife.
You
met your wife.
talking about from a parent, like a parental, or from like actual someone who's been through.
From a kid that clearly got kicked out several times ago, that's now looking back making a decision.
It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
There you go.
I mean,
that's awesome.
my whole life, and literally my whole life is. I look at it now, and it literally is like a God-led path.
Right. Good for you.
Down this road, where I was headed nowhere. I was headed just like the rest of a lot of other kids.
Well, I tell you. Not to do just an unfortunate segue, because I think all of the things we've talked about, freedom of choice, some of the stuff that's going on with the government, lead kind of right into what I wanted to talk about. Because a couple weeks back, as most of us know, Elon Musk purchased Twitter, or is in the process of making it final for some crazy amount, $44 billion. And I think the mantra when he purchased it was essentially, we're going to put freedom of speech back into Twitter. That was it. In the reality, and believe me, I am not a freedom of speech or First Amendment guru, but the reality is this isn't a First Amendment issue. This isn't a freedom of speech issue as it's being barked. It's a censorship issue. Twitter is not considered a public forum. They are not protected under the First Amendment. So with that, what we're talking about is, and I'll weigh this to you guys today, how are we going to define free speech? And how will it impact if we just say, okay, no more rules, Here you go. You can say what you want, do what you want. How do you think that's going to be balanced, knowing what people are going to post on Twitter?
I think he's got a good plan of letting the system just run its course. I can tell you, as someone who uses social media for my business, I have to keep track of metrics and the way that the data presents. So let me give you an example, and this is real. I can show you a video explaining this. If I post one thing political against COVID, against our current administration, my viewership goes down by 50% for the next week.
Because it's being grabbed. Absolutely.
Yes. So I will go from, like, say on an Instagram story, an average of 400 views. The second I post something political, my next stories for the next week are down to like 150 at
You're
best.
You're being managed, essentially.
It really is. So I think his idea with it, which is just kind of let it run its course, I don't know what the wording for it is, but with, letting people post in the organic traction take its course is the only way to do it.
And listen, I think that is clearly, that if you had to look at an argument, no, I'm serious. That's one side of it. He wants to come in and say, let freedom roll, let it be bolstered, and we'll see what happens within the law. Let's not do hate speech. Those that incite crimes are bad symbols. So the other side, if we look at it, is, okay, we are going to have to regulate it because Twitter is worldwide. We all have different rules, regulations for local, county, state agencies. If that's the case, who makes those calls?
Well, you know, this is where I'll jump in as a pastor. Is the Bible says that don't let anything unwholesome come out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. I think you can have forums. I think you can have conversations where you can talk freely in that freedom of speech.
Right here, we're talking freely.
But I'm just saying, if I do it, somebody can disagree with me. But if I treat them with respect, I treat them with courtesy and just common kindness and decency, I think they're going to listen to me out. They may not like what I have to say,
right?
But I think they're going to listen to me out. I think when you run into a lot of real problems is when people start to make it a point to really come after somebody, and they're basically not. And I think that's where, as we bring in a side of morality or common decency, which the Bible talks about.
Right.
Love people. I think if you can love somebody, doesn't mean you have to agree with them, or even because the Bible tells us that God loves us and He's going to discipline us if we get out of line. So if somebody gets out of line, I think they got to realize we're getting disciplined. But
from and I'll let you go, Kyle, from a real world standpoint, everything you say, I totally accept and agree with.
Sure.
But from a real world standpoint, we're dealing with billions of people that have access to this. You see, I know you can tell just by looking at it, you understand. The other side is, okay, where do we pull rules up? How do we put those rules up? And how do we fairly manage? What you just illustrated is a perfect example with respect to them feeling like they're handcuffing you after making a particular post. If we pull that up, where does it end on the other side? How do we put in either rules to make sure people don't say anything bad? There's got to be a rule on the other side, but where do we line and how do we define it?
It's a hard one, Scott, because I think everybody uses their own experience on what they believe and how they think about it. I'm always going to come back to God's word. I'm going to come back to loving people, giving people respect, and I do believe that if other people did that, I think we'd have a great opportunity to have conversations.
Yeah. I think transparency too.
Yes,
absolutely.
So he was going to open Elon Musk said he was going to open the algorithms
to
show like what is being distributed, what is being
pushed.
I think, and I didn't experiment because I'm all about things like if I'm going to preach on something, if I'm going to have a firm stance, I have to believe in it. So I did this week, as an example, I challenge anyone to do these things. I purposefully on my my watch section of Facebook, I deliberately searched Fox News like every day to see if there would be consistent feed that starts popping up. I did. And I'm telling you what, I cannot get it to auto-populate and just auto-populate stuff from Fox. I did it with CNN twice, and I promise you it shows up every day.
That's insane.
Every day. And this is, maybe it's just my phone. It is real life, and I did it this week.
Well, listen, and what's funny is when this announcement came up, and there were rumors that the algorithms were going to be changed, a lot of people were coming out saying, since the buyout agreement, I have been getting X amount of followers. Saying exactly what Kyle is. I've been managed by this big corporate agency that's putting their own personal restrictions. Yeah. It's interesting.
And it's on hold right now. What do you think of that?
You know what? It'd be interesting, and that leads me into what I want to ask you. It is on hold right now because I think there's a variety of rules and regulations now that he's backing up. That he's not backing up. He's being challenged with, and he's having to handle it. And I think some of the he's also being confronted with some issues that the richest man in the world shouldn't have to a certain extent.
Well, he's being interrogated over this
yes,
purchase.
Absolutely. But you know, when you talk about a big market like that, the one thing I think that's always a relevant rant is where we stand today with our real estate market. We have this real estate mogul guru here.
Too much credit. Too much credit. Well, hey, I almost had a watch that started going off like you haven't talked about real estate in 18 minutes.
I mean, where do we stand? What are the most topical things going on in the real estate?
Okay, and I'm always like, I try and consider myself like water. I am adjustable. I will flow. I will change opinion as I see fit. I'm never just firm and unchangeable. A week ago, I had a totally different outlook on this real estate market than I do today. So this week, we put 4 properties on the market, my team and I, and ranging from, one was about the 300 range, the others were upper, that 1 million and up range, right? And usually we could expect these properties to show 5 to 10 times within their first 48 hours, and you can expect offers to start rolling in by the second day. And I will tell you, the only property it is down at least 70%. So do I think that means the top is coming off? Do I think that means, or the bottom is falling out? Absolutely not. I think the world of 6, 8, 15 offers is maybe over. Mm-hmm. I think maybe this crazy bidding war, $40,000 over appraisal value, I think that's gone, but I think we need it. I think we needed it to disappear to give normal people a chance to buy a home.
The market's correcting itself, essentially.
Yeah, but I use correction loosely. Because people hear correction, they're like, oh, get ready, investors. Right. And that's not the case. Instead of this, we'll probably be like this, which is where we should be. Right. And so that's my opinion. I think the interest rate hike, as much as people hate it, we've seen just this week, another couple numbers and metrics, we had 70 price reductions in our market this week.
Wow.
That's insane.
When we've been in this demand-oriented...
In our market's small. We don't have a big market. 70 price reductions. You would be lucky to see 3-4 price reductions a day 4 months ago.
Well, and how much did you say would be a bid on a typical 6, 15, 20 bids on a particular house?
Oh, we'd have upward of 10 to 25 offers on a property.
How long have you been in the market, the real estate?
So I've been going on my 6th year.
Okay, and so you've seen both sides of it.
Yeah, there's and I preach to my team because I have 9 agents that work with me on my team, and I tell them, you guys don't get it. There's a market that exists where you actually have to try and sell a home. Right. You guys list a home,
that's a good point.
And it sells.
Yeah. Everyone thinks they're getting gravy
for
money.
A year, this is foreign to you, right?
Oh, yeah. They click submit, and it sells. We used to have to, run promotional ads, actually hold open houses, outbound prospecting, and I'm like, you guys are just soft. I can't wait till you have to learn.
Walking the pavement too.
Yeah, but so it's going to soften up, but I think it's healthy. I think it's in a good way.
When I was a young kid out of college, I became a banker. Not in real estate. I was basically just your average commercial banker. And I remember giving a loan to a realtor at the time. This was, I don't know, maybe mid 90s. I remember giving a loan to a real estate agent he had been in the industry 45, 50 years. Yeah. And I was renewing a line of credit. I had just met him. And I'm like, why are you renewing the line of credit? And he's like, I give myself a salary because after 50 years in the business, when interest rates were 18 or 20%, times were a lot difficult. Mm-hmm. He almost went bankrupt, and he became disciplined enough to whatever he paid himself, $5,000-$6,000 a month, because he had years where he was a millionaire, and he had years where lean. And I think that's such a great point by Kyle. There is 9 people working for Kyle, are part of your team. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them may have not experienced anything but just gravy time. Agents, yeah. And they're sitting there saying, hey, this is going to be a great career.
Well, Daddy's going to be big. On the contrary to that. So
Daddy's a brand new homeowner.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, congratulations. It's fun.
In Tennessee.
So on the contrary to that, because most people think it's a cakewalk. Right now, being in this market, it's an easy market as it relates to making money if you're a homeowner. Right. Selling and making. You could sell your house in 6 months and make money. When have you ever heard of that? Right. So, but what's interesting is as a new agent, it is extremely hard. I would argue it's harder as a new agent in this market than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Because of the competition that's involved?
Not necessarily competition. Right now, because of it kind of being such a scarce moment and people are selling and making a ton of money, they're only doing business with people they like, know, and trust. Okay. A new agent, they're dependent on cold business. Right. Cold business isn't out there. People are only using
just
referral business.
Comfort level type.
Oh my gosh, I haven't been on an actual listing appointment where I'm competing in a while.
You're getting referrals are based on prior income. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
People aren't making decisions right now based on on like someone they don't trust.
Right.
It's a sensitive market.
It's a tenuous market. The market is. It's all over the place. Well, one week we're hearing what's going to happen, all this demand that's coming up, and the next week we're like, okay, it's going to go up a couple points with the interest rate. What's going to happen now? And I think for most common people that don't have a lot of knowledge, interest rate hikes scare people, regardless whether it's good or positive. I think there's always different takes to take, but they scare
too. We get used to 3%. Yes,
absolutely.
So we hear 6.
Those of us who did buy a house when it
at
was
7% or 8%.
I bought a 13%.
Yes, no, I totally remember those days.
What did you guys get?
I got 375, and I was like, well, that's a little bit too much for me.
That's a little bit too much.
Danny's buying in a market in Tennessee.
So really quick, before we wrap it up, was there a ton of competition? Was it tough to get an offer accepted? How was your experience?
It was really competitive.
Yeah.
There was a lot of houses.
Forever the mogul though. He's trying to like undersell him right now.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I'm just trying to like the Tennessee. Let's hear.
How do
a
they
little
treat
bit
you?
about that.
Listen, is this not a great show?
Yeah.
What we have learned in the last 20 minutes, we've learned a little bit about baby formula, a whole lot about school of choice, a little bit because of me about freedom of speech, and a whole lot from our real estate mogul, Kyle, here. This has been a good time. This has been a fun time today, guys.
Anybody have something they want to just wrap up the show with? Comment, Danny? Kyle?
Yeah, well, I would say that we welcome perspective from people tuning in.
If you have questions for the show, send it in to MLS Production.
Well, and if you have a topic, obviously that's encouraged. And then if you have something to say about a topic, chime in. Let's talk. Let's debate.
That creates more discussion. That creates a better relevant
I feel like
rant.
you can conquer a lot of issues in the world if you have a sit down conversation.
And civil conversation
with a goal in sight of like let's try to get to know each other.
Yeah,
right.
A civil conversation too. I'm just saying something that you can bring out. You can talk about. You can disagree,
and you can learn from one another.
Yes.
If we're being civil.
And I think that's what we're hoping to bring. And there again, if you haven't seen some of our other content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and pick up on the other content that we're out there. We're trying to bring something new all the time.
All the time.
Love having Danny with us today because Danny's going to keep on our team even when he gets married and moves to Tennessee. He'll bring in some content. And there again.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.